This week our topic is on evaluation methods, and this topic, evaluation, is the subject of entire courses. This course is titled Program Planning and Evaluation to give you kind of a broad perspective about how to determine if there's a need, make a situation statement, come up with a plan that follows some form of logic to some desired outcomes, and now having that plan in place to evaluate whatever it is that you've developed or created. We only have a week on this topic because we've actually been talking a little bit about evaluation types all the way through the semester. But this week I give you a couple of resources. One of them is from SciFar, where you will walk through the actual types of evaluation analysis tools. And then another site called Better Evaluation, which I stumbled upon this year. It's the first time I've ever seen this site, that has a really comprehensive look in a very global way at program evaluation. So I couldn't think of one way to just engage you with that site and give you like a carte blanche, like everybody look at this one thing, because there were so many good resources on that site that I felt like you should have some opportunity to explore, and maybe there's some topics that are of greater interest to you based on what it is that you plan to do or are doing with your current job or role, or even within your thesis work or dissertation work. So you have some opportunities to explore some sites related to evaluation methods. But there are some key concepts that I want to communicate in this overview, and you'll be using this in the phase 3 that you're doing, the designing of a program evaluation. How are you going to measure if your program actually hit the mark, moved the needle, met its outcomes, and maybe even had some impacts as a result of what you did. So evaluation is just that. Did we actually make a difference? And then we get that information and we can make some decisions. So here's some of the highlights regarding program evaluation. Program evaluation is the determination of merit, intrinsic values or qualities, or worth of a product, process, or program. And so we're always looking at those three things: the product, the process, or the program. And we're going to make a decision about its value, its qualities, its worth to a group of stakeholders. And I've been using that term throughout the semester, and so has your text. Your text actually alludes to the idea that if it's time to do an evaluation, you should get experts. Well, you may very well be the expert. You may not have a big budget, but you still need to measure the type of program that you have. So hopefully there's some tools here that I can provide you that when you get into that situation, or at least designing your program plan and your evaluation this semester, you know where to go and get tools and get more information by doing some self-directed learning. But essentially, someone is making a value judgment about a particular product, process, or program. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences here, but first, an evaluation purpose. It identifies a new program or needs assessment. So that's our point of our evaluation. We're going to evaluate what's going on in a county. We're going to evaluate what's going on in certain training program. And hopefully through that needs assessment, we decide, well, we need to identify perhaps a new program or no program at all. I guess I could have said that as well. Our evaluation purpose may be to improve existing program and or to justify a completed program. So you're looking at possibly three things here: identifying a new program through a needs assessment in an evaluation, improving an existing program, basically how it's performing along the way in an evaluation, and then justify completed programs, or what we've discussed at summative evaluation. So there's always this question, and it's a really good question, especially for those of you who are writing a dissertation and you're doing some sort of an evaluation project. But what is the difference then between research and evaluation studies? And so let's talk about those as we go down through here. Research here on the left, it produces generalizable knowledge, whereas an evaluation judges merit or worth. So generalizable, merit or worth related to product, process, or programming. A research does a scientific inquiry based on intellectual curiosity. Evaluation is usually policy and program interests of stakeholders, where that is paramount, and oftentimes let's include the word taxpayers there, folks who are funding the actual program, product, or process. In research, we're looking for advances to broaden the knowledge and theory. And it's about broad knowledge and theory, and that's really what you're looking at. You're not doing any kind of evaluation of that theory, just advancing some sort of theoretical perspective or some knowledge. Whereas in an evaluation, you provide information for decision making on a specific program, not broadening not something that's generalizable to perhaps something in a wider body or wider context beyond that product, process, or program. And oftentimes then research is in a controlled setting. I say oftentimes, and you notice my asterisk, not always. Sometimes we try and conduct research in a controlled setting because that's really what makes it pretty unique and different. But there are some situations where you're doing these other items here, but not as controlled as you'd like for a research setting. So that's why the asterisks here. But under evaluation, it's conducted within a setting of changing actors, changing priorities, resources, and timelines. And so there's a lot of moving parts, if you will, a lot of variables. So I think that just keeping this in mind, that there are definite differences between what you're doing. And if you're looking at product, process, or programming, then you're probably conducting an evaluation, especially if a decision is going to be made about it. You're looking at value, merit, or worth of a particular target. Here we're just looking at basic research. We want to find out why. All right, so evaluation and decision making. This, by the way, I've cited some sources underneath here, but I put this one in as I was doing the research for this presentation, this overview, because we have been talking about monitoring and developmental evaluation and formative evaluation. And essentially what this author was saying in this blog is that there are differing types of evaluation within and under the evaluation, and arguably there are different types of research designs, which we'll get to in a minute, under research, but those research designs also can fit in under evaluation to answer those questions about merit and worth. But this particular blog posted that research seeks answers to questions in order to generate new knowledge and understanding. I think that is like the standard response when you ask folks, what is research? When we start taking a look at the evaluation and decision making for monitoring, we're tracking adherence or accountability requirements to quantitative indicators, usually measured as progress on a process or a program or a particular product. And then developmental evaluation supports the innovative and adaptive development, bringing the data to inform or guide that decision making in a dynamic environment. In other words, while things are changing or moving towards that desired outcome, which was talked about chapter 8-ish, I believe. And then formative evaluation explores if and how a program or initiative is making progress towards its goals. It's like taking the temperature, which we also talked about. And then summative evaluation, which is oftentimes what you would do at the end of a program or at the end of a particular time. That's looking at long-term effects, positive or negative, intended or unintended, of a program initiative. And this is really key, this intended or unintended, positive or negative. Sometimes as evaluators, especially if we're invested in the program, we are always looking for the positive, or we are always looking for that intended thing that took place. We have to be open and remove our bias, our confirmation bias about that program, and say, I need to be looking not just at responders, but non-responders. I need to be looking and be aware that the response that I get, or I need to craft my questions, my surveys, my interviews, my methodologies, so that I am looking at the entire, if you will, continuum of the effect. That means positive or negative or intended or unintended. So evaluation decision making, we do a lot of different types of evaluation. And I think on the resources I provide you this week, especially on that Better Evaluation site, it will open your eyes to that giant world of evaluation. People make their living doing this. They travel all over the globe looking at different programs that have been implemented by countries, banks, counties, etc., to answer the questions and to make decisions about things that have been done and money that has been spent. So evaluation versus research bumper stickers. I found this on a site. I put it down here at the bottom. Matheson, what is different between evaluation and research. But I just thought these bumper stickers would really call out what the differences are. So evaluation particularizes, research generalizes. Remember, particularizes because we're looking at a specific program. Evaluation is designed to improve something, while research is designed to prove something. Now that word I probably should have put in quotes, because in research we always say we never really prove anything. Evidence will strongly suggest or that it appears that, but we never say this proves unless it's some sort of law of physics, which again is not always proof. So they're set out to prove something, but evaluation is designed to improve something, to make a decision about it, and that decision could be, we're not going to really improve this, we're going to end it and put something else in its place. Evaluation is also more about so what? So what is this program doing? And research is what's so. This is what's happening. This is that contribution to theory or the knowledge base. Evaluation is how well it works. We're taking a look at that, especially in a formative way. Research is how it works. Evaluation is about what is valuable. Research is about what is. Without making that judgment, not looking at its value or its worth, it's just what is. And of course, that will usually spin off and somebody will make a decision on it. You see that very often in any kind of research. And then lastly, evaluation provides the basis for decision making. Research provides the basis for drawing some conclusions. So especially if you're working on a thesis or dissertation and you're doing some sort of evaluation, you might even title that last chapter conclusions, or you might title it discussion based on what it is that you've been evaluating. So, or doing research on. Those bumper stickers kind of say a little bit more about the differences between the two. Now I have this red block here, and I'll talk about it in just a moment, but this was another really good graphic, if you will, for looking at the differences, but also what I liked about this was where they come together, where research and evaluation come together and don't necessarily cross over, but you're using the same tools. So and that's explained in the SciFAR modules that you look at. You'll look at all the different the research method designs, and some statistical terms and statistical tools, in addition to a conversation about quantitative and qualitative methods to get at taking a measurement, for making a decision about value, merit, worth for evaluation, and they are the same types of tools that you would use in research. So let's take a look at this graphic. Seek to generate new knowledge, as we've already talked about on the research side, and then on the evaluation side, information for decision making. Research side is very researcher focused. There are specific questions you want to know what is. Stakeholder focus is what you see on the evaluation. What does this mean to our clientele, our participants, the taxpayers, the people who have some skin in the game related to this particular program, product, or process. In research, we're making a hypothesis. In evaluation, we tend to have key questions. I should have put a little asterisk here. Still, in evaluation, as your text notes, you will, from the questions, be able to create a hypothesis. And if you're going to do any kind of testing for statistical significance, you need that hypothesis. So I could see this item here, hypothesis, being over here, and the key questions also being over here. So that's one I think could be on either side, and of course they do come closer together here in this little hourglass. Methods and analysis is where these two types of finding information, if you will, in terms of evaluation and research, really come together. They almost overlap, and almost any tool that you can use regarding the research design can be used on the research side or the evaluation side, and also the same with the analysis. There might be a couple of instances where you're trying to do some controlled things to evaluate a program that is very much sounding like research. So that is why in the SciFAR Module 6, you go over and you're saying to yourself, especially if you've taken other courses here like Psych 3010 or Education 6570, you're like, wait a minute, we talked about this in a research methods class. What is the overlap here for evaluation? Evaluation is going to use the same tool to get to the types of answers to make those decisions. So over here, make research recommendations based on what you find out from your methods and analysis. And over here, recommendations based on the key questions, going back, how were these answered, published results, and you also will publish and make a report to stakeholders so that they can make that decision for that information for their decision making. So that's just a little overview about research and evaluation evaluation methods. Don't want to spend well, actually, I would like to spend a lot more time. There are entire courses on this topic. But in this course, it's really very survey and providing you hopefully with the tools that you need to at least develop a program, design a program, think about it in terms of how you're going to evaluate it. And then if you are that chosen one, you have the skill set to do the evaluation, or as your text says, you hire somebody who's an expert in that area. But at the very least, those reported results come back to you and you are able to present them and help stakeholders with making a decision. So that's a bit of an overview on evaluation methods for this week. I look forward to seeing what it is that each of you find that's interesting on the websites. And also for some of you, the review on statistics should be pretty easy as you look at the SciFAR modules. So hopefully you'll be able to put some of those methodologies and tools for analysis into your program design in your final phase 3.